Stan, who is in, looks like Pennsylvania. And Stan has a question for Mimzy. Stan, what's up?
Hey. I'm really glad to be on with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
First off, I want just to say to you, Dan, that I appreciate your show.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And I want to say that, like, I really appreciate you as a person because, you know, I know your whole, like, trajectory, your story, and that I think it shows what an intellectually honest person you are, and that, like, you know, you took in new information and you changed your position honestly, and I think that makes you better than a lot of people who have just had deeply held positions their whole life, have never critically examined them. So,
oh, Stan, thank you so much. That really makes my day that you said that.
No problem.
Yeah.
And Mimzy, I'm actually also familiar with you. I'm a subscriber to your YouTube channel. Yeah, I discovered you actually just a few months ago, really. And so my question was, I'm an atheist, and I'm also a progressive, a liberal. And I want to be an ally to those who are pushing back, I guess, against the excesses of Islam, right? Just the same way that, like, I push back against, you know, Christianity. But like, I want to do it in a non-Islamophobic way. You know, like, I feel like it's so easy for people who may have good intentions to try to intercede, but come off as condescending and to not be listening to the community. So I was hoping if you could help me and the audience, you know, like, find ways that we can assist others like yourself and fighting against the fundamentalism and other things.
That's an excellent question, Stan. I'm so excited to hear Mimzy's answer.
Sorry, I didn't quite get the question. I'm so sorry.
I think what Stan is trying to say is, you know, he identifies as an atheist, he identifies as a progressive, and he wants to kind of help those in the ex-Muslim community, and he's wondering how he could do that better. Is that a good summation, Stan?
Yes, about being Islamophobic or condescending or something like that.
That's a good question. I've never thought about it from, like, that perspective, but I suppose it's just talking about it. Don't be scared. I think people that don't come from a Muslim background feel like they can't speak about things that, you know, seem wrong. I mean, you know, there's a caste system in Hinduism, and I don't come from a Hindu background, but it's definitely something I've spoken about and I continue to speak about, and it's something that I don't agree with, and it's you know, it's a racist kind of thing within that area. So I feel like don't be afraid to discuss it in whatever format that is. It helps for there to be discussion. And I know it feels quite nerve-wracking, especially because of the way that, oh, sorry, I'm shaking everything. The way that you know, the way that everyone is at the moment, they're kind of scared to say anything against, especially if you're not from a Muslim background, they don't want to insult people or seem racist, but it's not racism, it's an ideology. And if you're kind of criticizing an ideology or an idea because there are elements to it that just are not for this society and are not good for humanity, it's okay to speak about. So I would just encourage people like you to be open in speaking about it. And as I said, whether it's on Twitter or wherever, just wherever you feel comfortable doing that, because I don't think we have enough people, especially now. Like, we need as many people, whether you're ex-Muslim or not, to be kind of supporting us. So that's it, really.
Wow.
So I was wondering, maybe we come at this from a different angle, because maybe talk about when you've seen this being done wrong. Because, for instance, we see often that, like, especially people coming from a really disingenuous place, they criticize Islam for, like, you know, like, treatment of women. Like, this is a good example, right? They'll say, you know, it forces them to cover up. And, like, you know, like, for instance, in Sharia law, where like, women aren't can't like testify by themselves. Like they'll need like a man to like co-sign their statements. And I feel like it's really disingenuous, especially when you look at the West and that like, well, we slut shame people all the time. We don't believe them when they've been assaulted, as the Me Too movement has shown us, you know. But like, and I think really the difference between the West and the Middle East is just really a difference in degrees in the way we treat women. So, so like when people criticize on that issue, it's just like it sounds like really disingenuous. So like maybe tell us like, you know, when you've heard like it just being wrong and coming down as condescending. So like we know what to avoid.
I mean, I don't think it is condescending. So you're saying because there are perhaps you know, difficulties with equality with women in the West. Is that what you're saying? That it's I don't know why that would make a difference to you speaking about both. I think
maybe he's worried. And correct me if I'm wrong, Stan, but kind of a judgment coming from a different culture. You have different value judgments, and when you're one culture is kind of judging another culture, there can be backlash as far as like, oh, you know, this is just how we do things, and it's hard for people to kind of make broad statements about those things. Maybe that's a little more clear.
Yeah, it's coming from like a really hypocritical place, you know, like saying that we're better we're a better society when we do much of the same things ourselves. Of course, we can speak out against both, but I mean, I don't know, just like I'm just looking for ways to be like a good ally. I mean, I don't know. I don't know it's vague.
No, I see what you're saying. I don't think you need to put that weight on your shoulders. Like you're a representative of the West and like you're carrying the burden of everything that they do. And like you are just a person and you like just on a human to human level. Like as I said, I don't think there's much to it. I don't see it that way. You know, you will like, I mean, I hope so. And all of us will just kind of stand up for things that we deem to be kind of not correct, you know, and are oppressing people. And that's it. I don't think it's that complicated, honestly. I mean, as I said, I think there's this fear that's just not necessary. You're absolutely in your right to kind of say, you know what, actually, the fact that women in Iran are forced to wear hijab and are forced to dress in a certain way doesn't seem right. That's not right. And that doesn't take away from what your background is, or it's irrelevant. It's kind of like you're just pointing something out, you know? And as I said, you know, it's not like you're going to stop discussing issues in the West. You know, you would discuss everything. It's not like you're just going to be criticizing them and then being like, oh, we're great. But, you know, I mean,
you know, if I could add on to that, Mimzy, you know, I think what we see here, and especially I think it's more prevalent in the United States because Muslims are a much smaller minority than maybe where you are in the UK. I think what it is some people are afraid to maybe talk about it because they're already such a small group. And especially in the United States, I mean, statistics show that these people are demonized by the common American. I remember reading Pew Research statistics that say that, you know, it kind of graded people's warmness towards people of other faith. And atheists and Muslims were the lowest, according to Americans, on how warmly people viewed them. And so, you know, there's already a struggle to be a Muslim in the United States. And I think there's some people who feel that, like, us kind of criticizing Islam is kind of adding fuel to the fire in that sense, that it's not helping people who are already struggling to get by to practice their beliefs freely in the United States, and us doing that, you know, isn't helping their situation.
Wow, see, you're asking the wrong person about this. I strongly disagree with that, and that it kind of like it a little aggravates me a bit, just because I feel like it's not about them. And I know it's a strange thing to say, but it's like, it's kind of like, it's so much bigger than that. Like it's this ideology is literally causing people to die and be tortured. Like it's so much bigger than that. Like these people will be like, oh, you're criticizing a book that I believe in. I don't want to say it is personal. I was going to say it's not personal. Obviously, it's their belief, but it's an ideology at the end of the day. I mean, people do it for everything else, and that's why I kind of it kind of upsets me, because I feel like there is this difference when it comes to Islam in comparison to everything else. And I don't know why there's this special treatment, because what it does is it just extends this oppression, and these people are just stuck, and then no one wants to speak out. And then it's like, you know, like Ben Affleck, you know, he kind of was like, oh, this is racist, you know, why we, I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but he had a conversation with Sam Harris about, and they were discussing Muslims, and he was saying, you know, criticizing Islam is racism. And that's how it's thought of. I mean, even the word you're saying, like that it's kind of insulting these Muslims, it's just not, it's not like that. It's the ideology. We don't agree with it. This ideology is actually causing pain and torture. So we have every right to kind of discuss that. As I said, you know, I would talk about the caste system in Hinduism. I think the more we do it, as well, is it will normalize. I think that's the main problem as well, is because there are smaller communities in America. You don't want to kind of offend people, but the right thing to do isn't to stay quiet about it, I don't think.
Yeah,
man.
I
Go for it, Stan. Tell us what you think about that.
Oh no, yeah, I just want to say, yeah, I definitely agree with you on the importance of speaking out, which is why I'm calling in the first place. And I know what you were referring to, that segment of Ben Affleck and Bill Maher on his show. And that's what I don't want to do. I don't want to replicate that. But you see, that's an interesting point, because Bill Maher in particular, and Sam Harris, the way they talk about Islam, I feel like they do it in such broad strokes, right? Like, I mean, and they do, and not just Islam. I mean, like it comes down to Islamic people, right? Like Bill Maher in particular, like this, like I think he's like perfect example of what I'm trying to avoid, actually, because you know, like he'll say, well, yeah. Islam, like the tenets are this, and we have moderate Muslims in America, but like one poll showed that like a certain number of people in Egypt, you know, believe in Sharia law's tenets, and so that it's fair for us to stereotype them, basically, you know, right? And like that's like things I'm trying to avoid. And I want others to avoid. Like, you know, I want to tackle Islam without attacking the people. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. It's not about the people. It's just about these ideas that are causing problems like that. And it's not, and we're specific in what we have problems with. You know, if you want to go pray 5 times a day, like no one has an issue with that. Like no one is bothered about kind of what you're doing and living a peaceful life. And the other thing I want to say is as well, is we have a lot of moderate Muslims that stand by us. So you know, a lot of people do see that it's not about them. It's not, you know, you'll have moderate Muslims that will be like, actually, I agree that homosexuals shouldn't be dropped from buildings and stoned to death. I agree with that. I agree that apostates shouldn't be killed. You know, I stand by gay rights. I do this. You know, you do get that in the Muslim community, and like you want, you know, they know that it's not about them. So it isn't about that. And when we have Muslims like that, you know, we kind of stand united, and it's like, great, okay, let's work together. And we definitely have that in America and in the UK.
Man, great conversation. I love what we're talking about here. Stan, thanks for the question. That was really, really awesome. And I hope to hear from you again soon.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate your show. You're doing a great job, and I hope to see. I hope you're able to call in some other time.
For sure, Stan. Take care. Thanks again. Yeah.
Thanks,
wow.
Stan.
Wow. Great dialogue happening there. I think you're making me more brave in a way. I think.
Yes.
That you're passionate talking about these issues, because, you know, the way that I think about this, Mimzy, is I don't talk about Christianity because, you know, it gets me going how much I hate Christians or something like that. You know what I mean? I talk about it because I care about the ex-Christians that I know and who have gone through these struggles and who just want to make a place for themselves and not feel like they have to be attacked by their friends and families by what they do or don't believe anymore. And
exactly. I mean, my mom is like Muslim. It's never like, do you know what I mean? Like the closest people to me, it wouldn't make sense for me just to be like, oh, I just want to go on a bashing rampage. Like, you know, people use that as an excuse, I feel like, because they don't want to listen to what I'm saying. So they'll be like, oh, this person's insulting us, shut them up. But it's like, then just they don't want to pay attention. But the people that listen and really hear what we're talking about, they're like, yeah, they have a point. So
yeah, for sure. Well, we're running towards the end of the show. We have one more call that I want to get to before we wrap things up. I hope that's okay, Mimzy. I hope you're not too tired on your part of the world there. Call it in from...
I feel like I'm in a dream, you know, when you're kind of in a dream state. Like I hope I'm making sense.
You're doing wonderfully. If I had known that you were calling from the other side of the world, I would think that you were just doing just fine. I think you're doing great.